Your Honor.
Too tall. I'm just gonna hold it. Go.
Your Honor, members of the jury, this case is about giving 16-year-old Reese Lansing what he needs to survive after Allister City Hospital illegally took away his kidney without getting his parents' permission. The evidence will show that Reese carries a gene for kidney disease, and when the hospital took away one of his kidneys, they took away half of his defense against this disease that could very well one day kill him. My name is Dakota Opening, and I, along with my co-counsel, Mr. Taylor Hooven, represent the Lansings in this case. Mr. and Mrs. Lansing have brought this lawsuit on behalf of Reese because Reese isn't old enough to bring a lawsuit on his own, just like he wasn't old enough to have his kidney taken away from him. We're here for one reason. Reese needs your help. He needs your help in telling the hospital that it's time that they take responsibility for what they did. Time that they pay up for their illegal activity. First of all, it's important to point out that we're not here today to decide whether or not the hospital did something wrong. That's already been decided. The judge ruled that the hospital committed statutory battery when they took away Reese's kidney without getting his parents' permission. The law in South Texas is very clear. It says that if a patient is a minor, the healthcare provider must get permission from their legal guardian before they do any type of medical procedure. No exceptions, no excuses. But that's exactly what the hospital did in this case. The reason we're here today is to decide how much the hospital owes Reese for what they did. So who is Reese Lansing? Evidence will show that Reese is an extremely talented, gifted, intelligent kid. Mr. and Mrs. Lansing adopted Reese when he was 14 months old, and they could tell very soon that he was special. He was brilliant. The evidence will show that they had his IQ tested, and he was a genius, with an IQ of nearly 180. They sent him to a special school so he would be challenged intellectually, and he blew right through the high school curriculum. Then he went on to the University of South Texas where he majored in pre-med, and he blew right through that too. He currently has a 3.96 GPA. But as smart and as talented as Reese is, there's no question that Reese is a very smart kid, but he's still just a kid. And as smart and as gifted as Reese is, he was born with a flaw. Reese carries a gene for polycystic kidney disease, or PKD as it's more commonly known. PKD is a serious kidney disease where cysts attach to your kidneys and decrease their ability to operate. PKD can be deadly. Reese inherited this gene from his mother, who died from PKD. So what happened to let us here? The evidence in this case will show that Reese hasn't had the normal college experience. He's had trouble making friends and getting along with people because he's so much younger than everyone else. The evidence will show that he went to counseling to make sure that he was adjusting properly to his college lifestyle. One day when Reese was at counseling, he met Taylor Warren. And the evidence will show that Reese, who wasn't used to having friends, finally found someone that he could connect with, finally found someone he could talk to. But there was just one problem. Taylor Warren was sick. Her kidneys were failing. And Reese couldn't stand to see his only friend like this. So what did Reese do? The evidence will show that Reese decided that he wanted to give away his kidney. He talked to his parents, told them he wanted to give away his kidney. And they said no, absolutely not. But Reese went through with it anyway. So we started the transplant process. And the evidence will show that throughout this process, Reese filled out some forms. But he wasn't completing these forms. He left out his birth year. Because Reese knew that if the hospital knew that he was only 16, they wouldn't perform the surgery. But even though Reese was dishonest on his forms, the evidence will show that the hospital had plenty of opportunities to confirm Reese's age. And they did. They either forgot to check or they didn't care enough to check, but they didn't confirm his age before they took his kidney away. As you're hearing this story, I'm sure you're going to ask yourself, why didn't the hospital confirm Reese's age? Why didn't they follow up on the incomplete forms? Why didn't they sit Reese down and have him tell them how old he was? Now, these are good questions, and they're questions that the hospital doesn't have answers for. The hospital doesn't have answers to those questions because the hospital didn't ask any questions. They just illegally took a kidney away from a 16-year-old kid without getting the proper permission. So what are we asking you to do today? I said in the beginning that we're asking you to give Reese what he needs. I'm sorry, back up. You hear a lot of excuses today come from that side of the courtroom. Excuses like, well, Reese was in college, so we thought he was old enough, but he wasn't. Excuses like, well, the transplant went well, but not for Reese, who now doesn't have a kidney and carries a gene for a disease that attacks your kidneys. You may even hear from Reese today, or you will hear from Reese today, and what he will say might surprise you. Reese doesn't want to win the case. Reese doesn't want the money. Reese doesn't want the hospital to be held responsible for their illegal activity. But members of the jury, this case isn't about what Reese Lansing wants. It's about what Reese needs. And we're prepared to present evidence today that shows exactly what Reese will need. What he'll need in terms of future medical care and how much that medical care will cost. What he will need in terms of money for lost wages, for lost earning capacity. So what are we asking you to do today? We're asking you to give Reese what he needs. Now, the judge has already ruled that the hospital broke the law. We're here today to determine the damages. And there's two types of damages before you today. Actual damages and exemplary damages. Within actual damages, there are three components. One, future medical care. You'll hear from an expert life care planner who will tell you exactly what Reese will need in the future and exactly how much that will cost. There's also lost earning capacity. You will see an expert economist report that explains exactly how much Reese will need. And finally, there's pain and suffering. You won't hear from an expert on pain and suffering because everyday people like you are the best at determining that. In addition to the actual damages, you may also award exemplary damages. Exemplary damages are different than actual damages in that they're not intended to compensate for harm. Their purpose is to punish, to send a message that discourages future similar wrongdoing. As I said, the evidence in this case what the hospital did in this case was wrong. Very wrong. The evidence in this case will show that. The evidence will also show that it could have all very easily been avoided. All they had to do was confirm his age. All they had to do was follow up on incomplete form. But they didn't. And it's that kind of blatant disregard for the law that cannot be tolerated in our society. So members of the jury, as the evidence unfolds before you today, I ask that you keep in mind that this case is not about what Reese wants. It's about what Reese needs.